Well, we are at the top of the hour with Mr. Heenan and Mr. Blakeman. So welcome to the Rising Phoenix Business Community. And I'm Sandy Corrigan, and I am here in Elizabeth, Colorado with my handsome and amazing co-host,
Tom Corrigan.
And my other amazing, handsome, and talented co-host.
Yeah, Chuck Blakeman. And I'm going to take over the show here and give you some information you didn't need. Here's what you thought your outfit looked like for the apocalypse, and here's what it really looks like. Rats. And look, we found social distancing seagulls. They're trying to help us. They're empathizing. Isn't that great? And you know, just so you know, the pandemics are harder for some than for others.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, here we go. The year 2020, brought to you by the letters W, T, and F. And then, of course, we always finish with the puppies. We got to finish with the puppies.
You always got to
finish on a good note. You have to go show my puppy I sent to you that gets stuck in the middle of the slide and doesn't want to come down. That's more like 2020.
Yeah, that's the best video ever. All right, that was free, no extra charge.
All right, well, Tom, are we excited about today's show or what?
We are, because we're going to switch things up, and we're going to talk about crucial issue in business, and something that's really plagued, I think it plagued us for a while years ago, and it sure plagues a lot of people who own businesses today, and that is
Speaking of plagues,
the language of numbers. You know, it's been said by bright people that accounting is the language of business, but that is way above most of our heads. That's why we hired a good accountant years ago and a bookkeeper, so that we could focus on the things that, you know, we signed up into business for and our passion. So I recently asked the guy, he was talking about his business, and I said, so what were your sales, you know, so far this year? And he went, huh? Wrong answer. So,
or my favorite one is people know the total overall number, but they don't know how much profit they actually made, right?
Or what their cash flow was.
They look at everything. So,
yeah.
or they don't know the very first most important numbers, right? Which you're going to talk about today, I think, with John Heenan. Right?
That's right. So we're looking forward to your interview between Chuck and John about what are the numbers we need to pay attention to and focus on, you know, to run a vibrant business, and so that we don't get bogged down. Those of us who are not mathematicians, you know, can still focus on the important things in business. So,
but before we get to that, I just want to prompt some of you on the call, be thinking about a bottleneck.
Yes.
So an issue, challenge, or opportunity, something you can bring to the group in a place where it's safe to say, I'm not sure how to do this, or I don't know, where we really all have the heart and desire to ask you questions, because you might be figuring it out as we ask you questions, and then to also rain some suggestions and support and ideas. So somebody, if you feel like a little like nervous stirring, like right now, like inside you, then you're it. You're up. You're going to do about it. And put it in the chat room, like if you already know you want to do it, because if we have time, sometimes we can do a couple of them. And then also we'll be, you know, kind of look at one big idea from today, because we like to end our call with blinding flashes of the obvious or takeaways. And so what's really sticking out to you today? So thanks for being here. I think there might be a couple of new people on the show, and we called this the Rising Phoenix Business Community because we talked about how that mythical phoenix bird, like literally chooses every 100 years to settle into a nest and burn away the things that need to go so that new things can come. And certainly, man, are we getting practice with that this year, and it's not over. And so maybe we'll just get better at being willing to let go of the things that need to burn up and go. I think I'm getting a little bit better at that. I think the extra COVID pounds for some of us might need to go. So that might be one thing you could think about. But also, what needs to go in business? What do you need to reinvent and pivot and get better at? So that is why we call Rising Phoenix Business Community, because that's who we are.
So why don't we hand it over to you, Chuck and John, and take it away.
Well, I'm excited to have my dear friend John Heenan here from Belfast, Ireland, just outside of Belfast. And I'll be interpreting today. He'll speak Irish and I'll interpret to American, two very different languages, it turns out. But no,
I have learned to live above a fence. Hanging
Yeah.
around with you, Blakeman, do you know that?
and see, when he first said that, I didn't understand him. I thought he lived above a fence. So how do you do that? No, he wants to live above a fence. So good to have you with us, Johnny. We're looking forward to talking through this today and having some great discussion on it. I'll say this to begin with. Success is actually quite predictable. I heard that from somebody else a long time ago. I said, well, that makes sense. Then I realized it wasn't finished. Success is actually quite predictable when you're doing the right things. It really is. If you're doing the right thing, success is actually quite predictable. That's the conundrum. How do we know if we're doing the right things? Failure is also quite predictable if you're doing the wrong things. So we need to figure that out. And the numbers are the thing that will help us do that more than anything else. Numbers, more than any other thing, numbers in business help us ask questions. Without good numbers in context, we can't ask good questions about our business. How's your business going? I don't know. Can't ask that question unless you know the numbers. How's your profit? What's your best selling product? How often do you have to talk to somebody in order to get a new client? Don't know. Just winging it. Most of us are using the random hope strategy of business. We're working really hard and hoping something good will happen. Numbers will save us from that and put us in a position where we can really drill down and figure this stuff out much more quickly. So John, you've got I think you might have a story or two about that and how you've experienced that and how numbers have helped you guys.
Okay, well, I mean, this happened by accident quite a number of years back. At one stage, I had a partner who owned 20% of the business. And I don't mean this in a nasty sense, but he did my head in. He just was a lovely fella, but just lived in the clouds. So I said to him one day, how much do you need to earn a year to go away and leave me alone? He says, I need to earn 40,000 a year. I said, well, basically that's 60,000, including the tax. So I said, okay, 60,000, you own 20%. So as a business, we need to make 30,000 so that I can give you 60,000 and you can leave me alone. That previous year, we'd made 52,000. So going from 52,000 to 300,000 was quite a leap. But just as you said, Tom, about numbers being the language of business, I just literally got a blank sheet of paper. I wrote 300,000 at the top and I got a calculator and I started thinking, how do you make £300,000 a year? So the first thing I did was I divided the 300,000 by 12 and that came out at 25,000. And I said, okay, how do you make 25 grand a month? And between just playing around with numbers, I came up with this, that if I had 50 clients, that we could make £500 net profit a month, we could make 25,000. And then I looked at it. How do you make £500 net profit from somebody? And I went back and I started looking at some of our existing clients, and we had clients we were making £500 net profit a month off. We had some we made more, we had some we made less. And then I looked to see what is a client that we make £500 net profit a month, or what do they look like? Now, my day business is I'm in the logistics, the fulfillment business. And so generally for us to make 500 net profit, they need to be shipping anything from about 350 plus consignments a month. Okay. So that gave me a definition for the first time. And I mean, you talk about, you know, the shoemaker's children not having any shoes. I mean, I know this stuff, but yet I didn't apply it to myself. So I sat down and looked at it. Okay. So I now know what an ideal client looked like. They needed to be shipping between about 350 to 500 a month. Looked and seen how many have we got, and we needed 50 of these. So I started measuring that, and it's something strange started to happen. We started getting inquiries from people who had 350 to 500 a month. I got introductions to people who had 350 to 500 a month. And it reminded me of that thing whereby, you know, you go into the garage and you buy, or I'm not sure what you call a garage, a car dealership, you buy a blue car and you drive out and all of a sudden you see all these blue cars and you go, where did they come from? Well, the fact is that they were there anyway. You just weren't looking for them.
Yeah.
And that's what seemed to happen to us. All of a sudden, we actually had clarity around what an ideal client was, what we were looking for. And I looked back in the past and sent the amount of time I had spent, you know, kissing the ugly frogs, before I ever found a handsome princess. It was horrendous, but it taught me a lesson. So away
That
we
was all,
went.
that was all random hope
And
strategy, and you moved from random hope to basically figuring out a strategy, a real strategy.
100% Chuck, but I didn't even know it was random hope. I just thought it was what you did.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody told me any different. So anyway, so over the next about 22 months, we actually got to where we made the 300. We were on track for 300. We were making 25 a month, about 22 months. And happy days, we celebrated. And then about 8 months later, it all went pear-shaped. And I wondered what went wrong. And I was measuring the wrong number. You talk about measuring the wrong thing. I was measuring the 300 profit, right? I stopped counting the 50 at 500. And I realized that I had one of them in there who was producing 18 of the 25 a month.
Wow.
And they had just grown and taken over. And they were one of the early companies into e-cigarettes in Europe. They grew phenomenally. But they blew up then after about 18 months, as they tend to do sometimes. So that was another lesson that I learned. I was measuring the wrong number, and I know you're going to talk a bit more about that. So I'm not sure if that's any use to anybody, but if you can take some of that stuff. Go ahead, Chuck.
No, I was just going to say that leads right into some of the other things we wanted to share. I've got a couple slides today that will that play right off of that, because I think when we talk about numbers, there's two kinds of numbers. There's accounting numbers and there's sales numbers. You were talking about sales numbers, and to me, those are the first numbers we need to watch. No point in watching the accounting numbers if we don't have sales numbers, because the sales numbers give birth to the accounting numbers. So if we're having trouble with our accounting numbers, we usually go back to our sales numbers. Not always. It could be production numbers. It could be other things. But we go somewhere else to fix our accounting numbers. And today, I think just focusing on the sales numbers, this is a classic sales funnel. We've all seen these numbers before. And I don't know where they come from, but you talk to 10 people, you make 10 connections. And you talk to those 10 people and say, hey, would you like to have a buying conversation? Not just any old conversation, but a conversation where we'll actually talk about whether you need what I have. And somewhere, someone decided that 10 of these people would end up as 3 of those. Well, your conversion ratio is 30%. If I talk to 10 people and ask them, would you like to have a buying conversation? I might get a conversation with 3 of them. And if I have that conversation with those 3 people, generally, maybe one of them will buy and become a client/lumberjack. We don't have time to talk about what that is today, but generally your conversion ratio from buying conversations to clients in the traditional sales funnel might be 33%. Mine was 27.4%. I measured it. And when you measure it, you can ask good questions. How do I get better at that? Why is it declining? Why is it going up? Why is it 27.4%? You can't ask unless you have numbers. So those are the 2 ratios that are the most important ratios for us in sales. How many people do I have to talk to in order to get some people to actually listen to me and have a conversation? And how many people who I have that buying conversation with will actually become clients? The question is, how many of us know those numbers? And I would suggest that most of us don't. This is where we can say success is actually quite predictable if you're doing the right things, and so is failure. If we're doing the random hope strategy of work, we're just working really hard and hoping something good will happen. A lot of wasted energy goes into that. I've done that way too many times in my own life. So we need to figure out one of these 2 numbers is going to be your number. We call this the first domino. It's like you got a whole room full of dominoes. And how do you knock all the dominoes down if they're lined up the way that, we think of that exercise? All you have to do is hit the first domino and it knocks down all the other dominoes in the room. There is a first domino in everybody's business. And John, you were talking about the first domino for the problem you were trying to solve. You had to work your way back to it. You started with 300,000 at 12 months and that divided it into 25,000 at 1 month. And then how many clients do I need to get to do that? And then what do I need to do to get those clients? We're right into this thing right here. How many connections do I have to make to get how many buying conversations to get 1 client? Most of us don't know these 2 conversion ratios. And one of these two is going to be our key number. In fact, I would suggest one of these two things is our first number. How many connections do I have to make? If I get that, that's the first domino. That'll give me this, that'll give me those, and then I can go make things and sell them, and off we go. All the other dominoes in my business start to fall because I figured out one of these two things. So that would be our challenge today, is figure out how do we find this one or two numbers. All right, I'll stop there. Thoughts, John?
Yeah, I
Can
mean,
I ask John a question?
Yeah.
John, so looking back at that, hindsight always being 2020, what would you have done differently in looking at that number and with that client?
it was the client in itself was irrelevant to a certain degree. Okay. My challenge was that I just looked at, I needed 25 grand a month to get 300 grand a year. So I focused on that. The calculation, what I should be focused on was I needed 50 at 500. And I should have counted, even though they were making 18 grand a month, I should only counted them as one. Okay, because once we got the 25, it stopped. Happy days, we'd arrived. And as somebody once said to me, coasting, you only coast downhill, you don't coast uphill. So that was another lesson. I mean, I learn every day. As we say over here, every day is a school day. So that was it. I was measuring the wrong number.
Yeah.
Okay. When I went back and looked at it and said, okay, now we look at it, we need, if we consistently are popping around 50 at the 500, and some come and some go, but as long as we know we're working on, that's what we're looking for continually. And you'd be amazed, more often than not, that's what we attract.
You get what you intend, not what you hope for. And numbers give you an intention. Without an intention, we're flailing around and doing, the old Charlie Brown's pig pen thing. He had a character on there where he just flailed around and kicked up a lot of dust and hoped something good would happen. We're doing the same thing. I've done it many, many times. So what this does for me, two things. When I found out my first number, when I started this business in 2006, I asked myself, how many connections do I need to make to get how many conversations, to get how many clients? And I winged it because I didn't have any data, but intuition is a very powerful thing. Einstein said, intuition is the highest form of human intelligence. I threw something against the wall. I said, well, I think maybe 1 out of 4 people that I actually have a buying conversation might buy something. I don't know. Let's start with that. It's better than nothing. And so I had a number. And then I tracked the number until I had security around knowing this was the right number. And sure enough, 27.4% of the people I talked to became clients. Success is actually quite predictable if you're doing the right things. So I had to start with winging it. And then I found that number. And here's what happened when I found that number. 2 things. One thing that was absolutely wonderful, another thing that was potentially devastating. Number 1, when you find out your number, you get to say this: I know exactly how to be successful. I know exactly what I need to do every day. The negative thing is, I know exactly what I need to do every day. And the point of that is that you can look at it one way or the other. It takes away all the confusion. It takes away all the opportunity for us to be what I call professionally confused. When I'm confused, I'm not responsible. It's not my fault. I don't know what to do. There's so many good things I could do. I'm flailing around. When you find that number, you get utter clarity, and that gives you the opportunity to be responsible. And it also gives you the responsibility to do the right thing. So it turns your fuzzy world into a very clear world, and you get to ask this question every day when you get up. I know what to do today. I need to make 10 conversations to get 4 clients, or 4 buying conversations this week to get 1 new client this week. Am I going to do that? Yes or no? And it becomes a yes or no world instead of a myriad of possibilities. So that was my experience. Is I had to take one of those 2 tacks and say, this is a good thing because now I know exactly what to do. And some people just don't want the number because it's scary. If I know what to do, then I'm going to have to face the fact that maybe I actually don't want to be successful.
Well, it's not that you don't want to be successful, Chuck. don't want to do it. I don't want to do what I have to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. Yeah,
Zig Ziglar said it best. If you do what you have to do when you have to do it, you eventually get to where you can do what you want to do when you want to do it. But they have to keep doing it that's the way it is.
and you're exactly right. Every one of us would say, I really, really, really do want 10 more new clients, and I really, really do want another $20,000 a month to show up in my bank account. I really do want that. I'm just not going to do anything to make it happen. So we fool ourselves with the desire, and that's that old English word, fancy word, velleity. The desire, the true desire, with no intention of doing anything. And I think that's where we end up with. Any other thoughts on this, John? I think it's a gripping conversation. It helps me, again, just get clarity. I've got to know one or two numbers. You don't need to know everything. That's what you got an accountant for. Find your one or two numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, go back. You've always got, apart from the fact that you're starting brand new, but if you've got any clients that you worked with in the past, just go back and look at ones you liked working with. What had they got in common? A few different bits, and that'll give you something to start to focus on. You've got to have something to aim at. The challenge is, as you say, I just go into the day and hope and pray something happens, and you're getting nowhere. It's not a pleasant place to live. That's where you end up like this in business.
It's great. So I got one little anecdote to share before we go into rooms. We're going to go into small rooms, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Tom, you can bring that up. But to kind of put a bow around this, most of us think Richard Branson's pretty successful. Most would agree with that. He owns something like 460 some businesses. And he lives on an island. And long after he was already a billionaire, he tells this story himself. And it was probably only like 10 years ago. He was sitting in a boardroom with all his fancy board people, and they were discussing profit and loss statements and budget and balance sheets. And one of the guys who was a good friend of his knew him well enough, and he stopped the meeting and he looked at Richard Branson and says, "Richard, you have no idea what we're talking about, do you?" And Richard says, "No, not a clue. Doesn't sound like anything I'm interested in. I don't understand all those numbers." And then he said, "But just give me a number. Give me one thing I can do. Do we need more airplanes? Do we need more hotels? Do we need more sales? Do we need more people? Give me a number and I can go do that." And the point of that rant is, and he went on to actually learn. He was so proud they taught him how to read profit and loss statements. And he said he spent the next 6 months teaching people how to do that. He was so thrilled that he knew how to do that as a billionaire. You don't need to know all the numbers in your business. Don't get discouraged by trying to figure out how to be an accountant. What you need outside eyes. You need other people helping you. And by the way, your accountant is usually not the right place to go for this. Sometimes they are, mostly they're not. But you need somebody to help you figure out what is the right number. To John's point, he had a number, but maybe if he had gotten a little bit more outside help on that, or at least down the road, he might have realized, hey, I need to go one step back from that. It's not $25,000 a month. It's X number of clients at this amount. We need outside eyes to keep clarity on that. And we just need somebody to help us find one number to get moving. And if it's the wrong number, it's better than what you've got now. And it's almost certainly going to lead you to the right number. So either way, you win. John, any parting words here, and we'll turn it over to Tom.
No, I mean, other than that, I mean, if you actually start to track some of the stuff, as you said, it doesn't have to be perfect to start with. Get moving and then tidy it as you go. The challenge is I'm waiting to learn, I'm going to do an accountancy course and then I'm going to start doing the numbers. Catch yourself on, just start where you're at.
And John, make sure you put your contact information in the box, because John Heenan and John Hayes and several others are part of 3 to 5 clubs in Ireland and hopefully beyond. And so, John, there may be some people on the call that want to get to know you and what you guys are doing there to further this conversation and help small business owners in your area. So all of you, feel free to put your contact information in the chat box so you can do one-to-ones with one another in between our calls.
So we're going to move into a little bit more interactive aspects of this. The first one is going to be a small room, and in just a moment. And we posted some questions. I'm going to repeat them for you here in a minute. And then we're going to come back and do bottlenecks. And a bottleneck, again, is your opportunity, challenge, or problem that you've been struggling with or wrestling with, can't come up with an answer. And maybe an outside eyes, a larger set of wise eyes on your issue might give you some insight to conquer that, that issue. So before we go in, the questions are in the chat box, but John talked about don't go after all the numbers. This isn't about you becoming an accountant. It's the one number. So here's question number one. What's your first number?
Yeah, that first domino.
Yeah. And then what number are you paying attention to? And do you need to change that number that you're focused on? So I think that'll take us through. And
yeah, Megan's going to put us in rooms. We'd really like to ask you to turn your video on and turn your audio on. And if you're not participating, then all you have to do is not choose to be in a room, because there's nothing more uncomfortable than a stalker in a room with us.
but don't check out, because we'll be back in a few minutes and we'll continue on with you as well.
Yeah, so just don't pick a button and we'll be right back in a few minutes. So what do we say? Let's take 6 or 8 minutes. Megan, let's take 8 minutes. 6 is never enough.
Thank you.
Cool. See you guys in the rooms. My room is the best, by the way, whichever one I have.
I know.
Nah, there's 2 of us. We had a good conversation. Any quick feedback from any of you about what you talked about in your breakout room, or something you might have learned from somebody else?
Yeah, we had one person, Kim, who said, hey, I'm all online. And so I don't talk to people face to face. And we just came up, there's just multiple numbers that she could track that have nothing to do with actually talking to people online. Everything from how many posts do you do on social media to how many times a month do you rearrange things on your website. There's all kinds of things you can do that can be a first domino. It's not always calling somebody on the phone. Who else?
Well, for me, this really helps my bottleneck. It is my bottleneck. Just making those sales calls and spending the time trying to find the gatekeepers. And you got to find the gatekeepers who make the decisions before you can start the numbers. It's a lot of time consuming, but I have to dig deeper in finding out who I need to talk to so those numbers can work.
Terry, and as I said, I always found that if you're ringing a company, always ask to be put through the sales department. They will always take your call.
But it's it's a little different in the medical field, because it can varies who make those decisions. It could be the nursing officer, it could be the CEO himself, it could be someone who's over HR. That's the work you have to put in when you're dealing with hospitals and doctors' offices. Yeah,
but if you get the sales, they're the ones, they will engage with you because they're hanging on just in case you have a fish for them. Okay, so whenever you engage with them, and again, be genuine about it. If I'm going to ring a company and I'm looking, well, I've done a wee bit of research, and I'll say, would an introduction to X, Y, or Z be of any value to you? I'm looking to, part of the challenge for a lot of us is that we try to go from 0 to hero in a relationship in a heartbeat. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It takes time. I know things have changed since I was a young fella chasing women, but still in all, you gotta, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Anybody else? Feedback from your breakout room? Thanks, Terry.
My feedback is, after listening to Chuck, is like, okay, I was telling him, like, okay, I like the numbers, but they make me uncomfortable because they set this thing in me. Oh my God, I got to do this now. All right. So, but at the same time, one thing he said, which is kind of reinforced what I want to do, is this: I may set my goals longer term, so the average may work out. If some weeks I screw up, next week I can catch up.
That's a great comment.
That helps me.
You're the only one that is ever uncomfortable with any numbers that put any stress.
Yeah, you should feel very alone.
Yeah, so I heard a story quickly, recently, Sanjay, that 3 economists went deer hunting, and they saw one shot, and he was, a meter to the left and the other one shot and he was a meter to the right. And the third one said, well, by the average, we got him. Anyways.
I think my specific fear that comes into the play is this. I feel like a beggar. Oh my God, I gotta get this many people. So I need to change my internal mindset. No, despite the fact how things look, I need to be in a mutually equally collaborative space with the people I talk to. And that makes me feel fine. Then I can approach from that place.
This goes back to all kinds of other head trash in our heads. And I've had the same problem for years and had to work through it. Why am I calling these people? If I feel like I'm bothering them, then it's possible I don't believe in my own service or product enough.
True.
If I really think they need this, then I will call them with it. This starts with a different mindset and my words will come out different. It'll feel different to me. It'll feel different to them. The people who are sensitive to that, Sanjay, are the people who almost never have to worry about it.
Yeah.
If you're sensitive about, bothering people, you probably will never bother people. But think about how you could serve them and how you're leaving them, how unfair you are being to them by not giving them what you have.
True. And I do want to share, I'm gonna have to leave early. And I want to share this one thing. I think like a few months back when I came on this Zoom thing, and Chuck, you said one thing that we should spend every day some time on finances, like a few minutes or so. And you guys were talking about idle loans and stuff like that at the time. So the very next day I did that. It took me 15 minutes to apply for idle loan. I got $31,000.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Stuff works.
Feel free to share whatever finder's fee you think is appropriate.
Yeah.
That's
I think
awesome.
what's so amazing is that when we get together in a group like this, we have these kind of ideas. And I know we're going to talk about this later, but Fast Track is coming up, and tomorrow is our introductory call to what Fast Track is, and it's free. And Megan's putting the link in there. But I think the first time I took Fast Track really helped me get what you were talking about, Chuck, is what value do I bring a client? And how can I go into a call or a conversation, right, with that kind of mindset? And just like John Heenan said, if I value who I am in a dating relationship, then I feel like it's, I'm worth it for Tom to bring me roses and take me out to a nice dinner and buy me beautiful things, right? And so we have to have that mindset shift. And I think Fast Track is as much about that, is our own mindset and our own value and getting really clear on that, because that's the key to doubling your business, is knowing what you really have to offer. And if you don't, then maybe it's time to change businesses, right?
Along with that, we took it together, 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And we were the realtors for all of the Denver metro area, which
Everyone,
is
everywhere,
every
price
community. We knew every neighborhood, out of some 4 million people, which is ridiculous. Nobody does that.
Nobody can do
But
that.
a lot of people claim it. And then we finally got, wait a minute, that's not what we're about. And we got focused in this training and focused on a much smaller area. And then we got those calls from people outside that area and go, wait a minute, I know you only do this, but could you possibly sell my house over here? Well, sure, we'd love to serve you over there. And we doubled our business in a very short period of time by getting that focus. So we're very excited that we're offering this training again.
We're actually going to be in Fast Track, so ourselves.
I'll have the privilege of leading that. It'll be a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things I do.
Awesome.
I bet. So why don't we get a couple of bottlenecks? And we have an opportunity as part of one of our guests here. You can talk about a challenge, opportunity, or problem that you're facing, struggling with, maybe you gave up on, that if you had input from a wider set of eyes, you might really get a breakthrough. And it's a 6-minute process. You get 60 seconds to talk about the issue. We'll take 2 minutes to ask you clarifying questions, interactively with you. And then 3 minutes, we'll rain ideas on you, and you can write them down or record them as fast as you can. And we just see person after person get the big aha during this time.
So AJ already volunteered in the chat box. So we're going to have AJ go first. Good, courageous AJ. So AJ, unmute yourself. And I am going to time you. So when I hold my phone up like this, AJ, done.
That's done. Okay.
And then, so.
So AJ, go ahead and start. Take 60 seconds and lay it on us.
Okay, perfect. So my name is AJ Gant. I am in the health and wellness field. I am a functional wellness practitioner. But what that means is I have a lot of avenues that I get to use. So my bottleneck right now is one of the companies I use for my supplements and nutrition just launched a new program, and it's very customizable. So I have two parts of my bottleneck. One is I have an existing base that already has this nutrition and supplements that isn't in this customized thing. And two, I'm working on how to do this virtual pop-up Zoom thing in order to create a larger footprint on how to do it. So some of what I've already heard is helpful, but the bottleneck piece is the conversion of what I already have versus how to create new influence, because this new product is revolutionizing this particular area of health and wellness. The things that I'm a little bit confused on is, we talked about this in my group, is my number of conversions, but I do know that my number is 3, that in order for me to continue growing in my success, I need to have 3 sales as fast as possible. That can be 3 a day, that can be 3 a week, that can be 3 a month. And then the other thing I need help or success with is this whole pop-up and Zoom thing, platforms people have had success with, whether Facebook, Zoom, or something else out there. Thank you.
Thank you. We're pretty clear on that, I think, but let's take 2 minutes to ask clarifying questions if you need more clarity.
You put it in the chat or ask out loud.
I didn't understand the 3 per thing. It seems like you'd need to know exactly whether it's 3 per week or 3 per day. Or 3 per month.
That's our bonus structure. So every time you complete 3 sales in the new program, you either get an immediate bonus or then it compounds into the total for the month. But 3 is the immediate number.
Okay.
Next question. Thanks,
Who's
Connie.
your target market?
The target market is people who want to feel better, which is really general. So I probably need to clarify my why to be comfortable, because I have 3 different disciplines I work with. I work with athletes, I work with kids, and then I work with people who are struggling with more intense pathologies.
Terry asked, what are the products?
So the product line that I'm speaking of specifically is Shackley. It's been around for a long time, so some people may have heard of it, some people haven't, but it's a health and wellness line that's been around since 1956.
Are there price differences between the customizable and the current base of clients you have?
There is, but not by much, only because the customizable gives you exactly what you need, where the other one is kind of a general, if you're a woman, you should take these, where the customizable then turn around and say, a woman at this age who has this may need that. But the price isn't very much, and oftentimes I've actually seen it recently go down than what our standard or what our go-to used to be as far as the vitamins go.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
Okay, we can move to suggestions because we're
Let's
time
take
anyway.
3 minutes and give her ideas.
So just following up on that clarifying question, it's just making sure that your existing base of business, that they understand that, you know, who doesn't want presumably more customizable, just for me type products. It really, there is no major price differential. So the communication of that, I would think, is key.
Okay.
The other thing I would say, AJ, is I would think your existing client base now is the group to first go back to and say, you know, now we have, hey, Sandy, you have this, we had this general thing, but now let's take you through another analysis so we can look deeper at these additional products we have that might really pinpoint issues that you're facing. So kind of a consultative, or not kind of, a consultative approach to bring extra value to the people who are already knowing, liking, trusting you and using what you have, and then getting referrals from them.
And building off of that, if people already know, like, and trust you, then they ought to be the people who are introducing you to your next group of clients. You know, you gotta ask them, who else do you know that will benefit from this that I should know? I like the term, you know, in my clients, I want to know the people who are like you. You are such a great person to work with. I want to work with your family and your friends.
And I would say that the first thing popped into my mind was that you need to narrow down your audience, your potential
Very
market,
sure. Mm-hmm.
and go from those who could buy, which is everybody, to those who will buy. And you define who will buy, because everybody could, but you need to go after a very narrow market. I know a lawyer who represents nothing but bicycle injuries. They're not an injury law, which is narrow. They're bicycle injuries. That's it. And they have more business than they know what to do with. And they know who to market to and how to do it. So, that would be my encouragement is, man, get as narrow as you can, because there's going to be a deep well in that one narrow place, and you will be the only expert in that well.
And I would add kind of to what Chuck and Tom are saying, which is, who do you really like to work with?
Yeah.
Like, really like take a piece of paper and write down all the attributes of who brings you joy to work with, because you're going to transfer that energy. You're going to be excited about working with those people, and they're going to know more of those kinds of people.
I heard a comment recently, just a couple days ago, that you're.
If there's talking in the background, mute yourself. Whoever's talking.
Go ahead, Connie.
Your ideal client is not something you know every detail about immediately. It's something you build over time. So it's not as intimidating if you take that approach. You start very basic and then you add.
Yeah.
Also, I suggest blogging if you're into that, without being salesy in your blog. That's supposed to be the best way to have long-term marketing. It sticks around for a long time.
Well, on podcasts, blog or podcast, either one of those are killer.
Well, we're running out of time. I hope you got some things you can.
Yes, thank you so much.
Hey, AJ, we invite you to come back on next month, and because we always like to have people that do a bottleneck come back on and talk about the result from the bottleneck. So if you come on next month and spend a couple minutes telling us what you tried, what worked, what other thoughts were spurred from this.
Sure. So real quickly before I go, I know we're sort of running out of time, but I was part of 3 to 5, I don't even know, like 2010 maybe, back in Colorado. And it's the one thing of when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I just happened to see the email at 6 o'clock this morning, put it on my calendar, and here we are. So it's amazing how these things work. And so I've seen them work, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Awesome.
Well,
and
good to have you back.
We are doing more and more virtual clubs, AJ, too. So maybe let's connect. And where are you now?
I live in Florida now.
Okay, well, let's talk about 3 to 5 Club in Florida, because we'd love to be able to invite people to have benefit.
Message you my contact and we can continue this conversation. So thank you.
Any of you that would like to visit our 3 to 5 clubs this week, we have a lot of hybrid stuff going on, face-to-face and Zoom. Chuck has clubs, John and the group in Ireland have clubs, Tom and I have clubs. We've got a couple of other facilitators, so we'd love to have you come and visit to continue this conversation around business by the sales numbers this month too.
Do we have anybody else? We have time to do one more bottleneck.
Do we?
No, we really don't.
Oh, you're getting vetoed.
Because we have time for a couple other things in BFO. So if you have a bottleneck, sign up now and we'll get to you next month.
Fair enough.
Sorry, Tom. We love you.
Sorry.
What else you want to talk about, Sandy?
So you can sign up to feature or have a bottleneck. Chuck, we know that there may be a new stimulus coming out. So if you sign up at the risingphoenix.com, risingphoenixbusinesscommunity.com website, you'll get the latest survival guide. Like you heard, Sanjay got $31,000 because of our help in applying for that EIDL loan. So sign up there. We also have, as I mentioned, tomorrow, our introductory meeting for Fast Track, and then Fast Track is an 11-week program that really does help you double your income. And if you've ever taken Fast Track and you have a great testimony, stick it in the chat box so everybody can see that. We've also got our October 14th, Chuck is doing a free live and in-person. Chuck on Zoom is doing a free workshop on his new book, Rehumanizing the Workplace and Giving People Their Brain Back. And we all need our brains right now in really significant ways, and we need to know how to give our people their brains back. So Chuck, what else do you want to say about that?
Megan just put a URL in the chat box to click across to sign up for the challenge. And again, it's absolutely free. You will get something out of it, whether you go on to do Fast Track or not. It'd be well worth probably the best thing you've done other than this time today. this
And
week.
Chuck, the rehumanizing, you're going to talk about the 12 tools of the participation age and distributed decision-making, correct?
Yes, and yeah, for two Wednesdays from now, I'll be talking to a live audience that's physically distanced, and we've got, I don't know, we're probably gonna have well over 100 plus people on Zoom who will join us for that, and it's a preview, a 90-minute preview of my new book, Rehumanizing the Workplace by Giving Everybody Their Brain Back. So we're excited about launching that November 18th. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon, and we'll give you a 90-minute free tour of the importance of this for where the participation age has taken us.
I think it'll probably be the book to help people understand this whole working at distance thing.
Yep. The working
Yeah, it's going to be the go-to book for remote work, we believe.
The other piece is, this is the time of the year many of us think about planning for 2021. Do you believe we're saying 2021? Like, it's going to be here in 3 months, right? So we're doing a strategic planning workshop on November 12th. Megan can put the link in there. So if you don't know how to save the chat, by your name to the right are 3 little dots. And if you click on that, you can save the chat. And also we make this available on the Rising Phoenix Business Community site, or you can email Megan at cranksetgroup.com. Megan, maybe put your email in there for people, so if they have questions on all the stuff we're talking about, they can email you. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, we found out over the years that January 3rd is probably a little late to start your strategic planning for the year. So now's a good time to get ahead of that game and use what you've learned this year to increase your reach next year.
And to create a really easy 2-page strategic plan that you are looking at and following and adjusting on a regular basis. So let's finish with some BFOs. BFOs are blinding flashes of the obvious. So what are some of your takeaways? Put them in there. So Marlon said, if you don't know what number to start with, just arbitrarily pick one and go. So get a number. What else? What are some other BFOs from anybody? Unmute yourself.
If you don't know what you're looking for, you'll never find it.
I love John's comment that every day is the school day. If I got
Me
that
too.
right.
That's true.
I also
thought-
appreciate, oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just thinking with John Heenan, it doesn't matter whether your goal is a negative goal in you want to get rid of a guy or a partner or a positive. It doesn't matter. Once you know your numbers, you can move really fast.
Thanks, John.
And the just start doing it thing, and that's definitely something that resonated with me because this program is so new and we've been doing the virtual stuff. It shouldn't be that hard for me to like connect these things, but it's just a matter of getting around the calendar and just doing it. Whether one person shows up, nobody shows up, or a million people show up, just getting in the action is
There you go.
the start.
Good night. Thanks, AJ.
AJ, you're really great on camera too, so I'd encourage you to do some Facebook Lives or Zooms, or, you know, like, you're super engaging. So take advantage of that natural talent you have to engage people on this idea of wellness.
Thank you very much. I wrote down the podcast. I'm not a blogger, but I think you could probably get through the video thing. So thank you for the compliment.
Terry
why
said,
didn't I get a
help us
compliment?
to ask questions.
What was that, John? John Heenan had something.
What's wrong with me, Sandy?
Oh, Terry just said numbers help us to ask questions. Go ahead, John.
No, I'm saying, hold on. Why didn't you didn't say something nice to me? I'm hurt.
John, you
That's a
are,
compliment, John.
John,
Time to live above a fence.
You feel a little pumped about
John,
himself
you
today.
know you're my favorite,
Oh,
but
geez, here we go.
no, you know you're my favorite. But I want to remind you today that you are.
Thank you.
Now, I appreciated John's honesty talking about not wanting to do what he has to do. And I don't know if there's anybody else besides me who lies to themselves and says, oh, I don't really need to do that. Oh, it really won't make a difference. Oh, it's too much of a pain. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that next week. Anyway, thanks, John.
Yeah, really, the question is, can anybody raise their hand that doesn't have that thought going through their head?
Yeah, that's a better question.
Well, I really appreciated Sanjay's comment about looking at an average, because I think we all hate routine to some extent, and that's what he was talking about. You can go up and down as long as you get it all done at the end of the time frame.
Thanks, Connie. Last comments. Hey, you know, part of the engine of 3 to 5 Club are three pillars, and that's content, community, and connections. We're making some connections here. You heard awesome content today, but in a 3 to 5 Club, it's really building a sense of community. It's so easy to get lost today. And, you know, there's all this information about how this is affecting our physical health, our mental health. People are, you know, silently slipping into depression because they're lonely and sitting by themselves. 3 to 5 Club offer you a place to significantly connect with other people who want you to succeed. You know, that it flows over. We don't get together and meet just during that, you know, our 3 to 5 Club time. We're building relationships that last for years and that connect well after, you know, the meeting's over. So consider your own need for connection and community. And if you want to know more about 3 to 5 Clubs, just go to 3to5club.com. This isn't so much a sales push, it's an invitation to community.
Yeah, because we believe we have something of great value to you. And, you know, people like Tom Fanning, who've been here for 10 years, could teach this over and over again. And yet Tom continues to be generous in terms of building community. And think about somebody to invite to this call next month. I mean, we're doing this free. We want to help you. We want to build this community. And so what name comes to mind of someone you've recently talked to who missed being here today that could be here next month? Because we're going to continue to get our arms around people, whether they ever become part of a bigger community or not. We want to be able to help you. Chuck, any parting words?
Success is actually quite predictable when we're doing the right things. Go do the right thing.
Yep. And how about a quote, John Heenan, my favorite Irishman, handsome, intelligent, amazing.
You can achieve anything you want in life if you help enough others achieve what they want. 2 caveats. 1, you need to know what you want. And 2, you have to take the time to find out what they want.
Good.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Hey, great to have y'all with us today. Thanks for sticking in with us. Thanks for your input and your questions. Look forward to, we do this the first Monday of each month. Spread the word.
Yeah.
Have an awesome day.